Are you all through? I'm not. You're a sick man, Vincent, and we all know why.
I leave in 10 minutes.
Now...
Interesting facts about famous people.
Fort-themed westerns. Back in the Wild West, when hostilities broke out with local Indian tribes, the fort was the place of refuge, a place the cavalry, who policed the region, were based, strategically placed on routes that supported the migration to the west. The natural setting for cavalry movies. Movie titles often contain the name of a fort to convey that it is a cavalry movie. As the popularity of fort movies waned in the late 60s, these fort names for movies disappeared. Today we will remind ourselves of these great westerns and keep the tradition and genre alive. If you enjoy this video, hit the notification button to get my new videos. If you want to check out my many other videos, head over to my channel. The link is in the description. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel as well. I appreciate it. Let's get into it in no particular order. Fort Apache, 1948, directed by John Ford, starring John Wayne and Henry Fonda, the first of Ford's cavalry trilogies, followed by She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, 1949, The Rio Grande, 1950, all starring Wayne. The film was one of the first to present an authentic, sympathetic view of Native Americans. A movie critic called it one of the great achievements of classical American cinema, a film of immense complexity that never fails to reveal new shadings with each viewing, and among the first pro-Indian westerns in its portrayal of indigenous Americans with sympathy and respect.
But they're there. They're the regiment. The regular army. Now...
Fort Defiance, 1951, directed by John Rawlings, starring Dane Clark, Ben Johnson, Peter Graves, Tracy Roberts, George Cleveland, and Ralph Sanford. Ben Shelby rides up to a cattle ranch outside Fort Defiance, Arizona, looking for Johnny Talon. He meets Johnny's brother, Ned, who informs him that according to a letter Johnny had written just after the end of the Civil War, he should be home soon. As they are talking, the horse Ned has been trying to saddle rears up. He falls, and Ben saves him from being trampled. When he asks Ned why he didn't get out of the way, Ned reveals that he is blind. Fort Worth, 1951, a western directed by Edwin L. Marin, starring Randolph Scott. It is Marin's final directing work, as he died 2 months before the release. Former gunfighter Ned Britt sets up shop in Fort Worth, Texas, as a newspaper man. He falls in love with Flora Talbot, who is the fiancée of a former friend, Blair Lunsford. Britt tries to expose the crooked cattle baron, Gabe Clevinger, in his newspaper. Clevinger resorts to violence in order to prevent the arrival of the railroad at Fort Worth. Britt has to rethink his journalistic methods to stop him, and resorts to violence himself. Escape from Fort Bravo, 1953. Set during the American Civil War, directed by John Sturges, starring William Holden, Eleanor Parker, and John Forsyth. Fort Bravo is a Union prison camp with a strict disciplinarian named Captain Roper, William Holden. A pretty woman named Carla Forrester, Eleanor Parker, shows up to help with the wedding of her friend, but has really come to assist in freeing some prisoners, including her previous beau, Confederate Captain John Marsh, John Forsyth. Roper falls in love with her, and she with him, and the escape happens after the wedding celebrations, and Carla unexpectedly leaves with the 4 Confederate escapees. This gives Roper an additional motive to recapture the escapees.
Here they come.
Fort Yuma, 1955, a western directed by Leslie Selander, starring Peter Graves, Joan Vose, John Hudson, and Joan Taylor. When word reaches the US Cavalry Command that an Apache chief's son is planning an attack on Fort Yuma, a column of soldiers led by Lieutenant Ben Keegan is sent to deliver ammunition and supplies. Keegan has a long-standing hatred of the Indians and even resents that his Indian scout, Sergeant Jonas, is an Apache himself. Accompanying them is missionary Melanie Crown, an educated and enlightened woman from the East, who despises prejudice and strongly believes everyone can live together in harmony, and the sergeant's sister, Francesca, whose mutual attraction with Keegan is complicated considering his views. Guns of Fort Petticoat, 1957, produced by Harry Joe Brown and Audie Murphy for Brown Murphy Pictures, based on the 1955 short story Petticoat Brigade, history as this throughout the Southwest. Fort Dobbs, 1958, a western, the first of three directed by Gordon Douglas to star Clint Walker. The other two were Yellowstone Kelly in 1959 and Gold of the Seven Saints in 1961, based on a screenplay by George W. George and Burt Kennedy. It was intended to capitalize on Walker's success in the Cheyenne TV series, but box office returns were modest. Gar Davis has to get out of Largo in a hurry because a man he threatened to kill has been found dead. He comes across a man in Comanche territory killed by an arrow. Gar trades jackets with the dead man and then shoves the corpse over a cliff, hoping the posse pursuing him will think he's the one who is dead. Trying to steal a horse, Gar's face is grazed by a bullet, shot by young Chad Gray, whose mother Celia tends to the stranger's wound. Indians attack the house. Gar helps fend them off, after which he and the Grays take off on horseback towards the safety of Fort Dobbs.
Get shot inside.
Fort Massacre, 1959, directed by Joseph Newman, starring Joel McCrea, Forrest Tucker, John Russell, and Susan Cabot. A possibly mad cavalry commander leads his troops through dangerous Indian territory. An embittered cavalry sergeant must take over his regiment after their commanding officer is killed during an ambush. Vincent is driven by his hatred of Apaches, who were responsible for the death of his wife and children. He and his remaining men, including Travis and McGurney, try to ride 100 miles to the safety of Fort Crane, a fictional analogue of Fort Craig in New Mexico territory. Along the way they attack an Indian band, despite being heavily outnumbered. Vincent's vengeance knows no bounds, until Travis is ultimately forced to take a stand and confront him.
U.S. Army sergeant. I figure the orders came from a man whose wife was raped.
Fort Courageous, 1965, directed by Leslie Selander, stars Fred Bear, Don Barry, Red, Hannah Landy, Harry Lauter, Walter Reed, and Joe Partridge. An ex-cavalry sergeant, being escorted to prison after being convicted of a crime he didn't commit, finds himself leading the remnants of a unit that has been under Indian attack at a fort. The commanding officer has been killed. The Indians vastly outnumber them, and the only bargaining chip they have is the fact that they have captured the Indian chief's son. Parts of the film were shot at the Kanab Movie Fort, Johnson Canyon, and the Gap in Utah. Fort Vengeance, 1953. Fort Vengeance, aka Royal Mounted Police, is a western directed by Leslie Selander, starring James Craig, Rita Moreno, and Keith Larson. Opening scenes were shot at the Ray Corrigan Ranch in Simi Valley, California, and in no way, shape or form resemble Montana, North Dakota, or the plains of Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Two North Dakota brothers, James Craig, Keith Larson, flee to Canada and join the Mounties during an Indian dispute.
Hey, Dick. Looks like you're right again. He did have some friends.
wrong there. They aren't forgotten because they haven't died.
Proofreaders copy. We got lady readers.
That was no story.
Then we'll remain silent.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate your likes and subscribers. Hit the notification button to get my new videos. Take a look at my channel and check out my Facebook page. The links are in the description. I am Wrangler. Bye for now. See you again soon.
Interesting facts about famous people.